John O'Brien, today's topic is the perils of a deer mineral. Everybody talks about what's right about a deer mineral, all the good benefits of deer mineral, but here's my talking points here today. Ask yourself or find out the mineral that you're using, what's the background on that person that's formulated that mineral. There's so many people that are selling products that don't have the feed licenses that they're required to have. I'm required to spend a bunch of money every year for my feed tagging license. And again, in the industry, very few people have those, and it's supposed to be required, but they don't have it. Um, but when you're formulating mineral, let's just say if there's a 1 ton batch of one of the predominant minerals that I produce and sell, you might only have about 2 or 3 ounces of a super concentrated vitamin D in there. You might have 1 ounce of a cobalt product. You might have a couple ounces of a highly concentrated selenium product, a couple ounces of iodine, a lot of these trace minerals, and even on the vitamin side, you're talking a pound or two of vitamin A probably per ton. You're talking a couple pounds of vitamin E, and so here's the elements, the products, the things that I have a huge caution, huge concern with that I bring up to people. Iodine. One of the first stops I made in 1991 as a young, out of college, one of the first ruminant nutrition consultants, driving in the yard, and the guy's like, "What do you know about high boot salt?" And I kind of smiled. I thought I knew it all because we fed high boot salt a lot of my life on the Grandpa Ray's farm. And again, the more we start talking and about abortions, absorptions, and health issues of the calves and that, I had to dig into it deeper and ask some people with more experience with it. I've ran it years later, ran into problems where milk was dumped because of excess iodine, and again, iodine can be deadly. Shortly thereafter, a year or two later, I was on a farm and we were witnessing and talking about the problems with a big, huge co-op that actually misformulated, and they had a vitamin D toxicity, and a lot of animals were aborting, absorbing, lame because of too much vitamin D. And again, for deer, uh, too much iodine, too much vitamin D. Selenium, there's a legal limit of selenium. You're supposed to be at zero point 0.3 parts per million in a diet. And selenium, again, also has a lot of potential peril and big issues. Um, so those are just three. I mean, there's a lot of things nutritionally we can talk about in that. A lot of elements are not as big of a concern, but again, if a guy's mixing it up in his wheelbarrow in his garage or at his buddy's little operation, and he's not let's just say calculating, and you have a slip of the decimal place, and instead of putting zero point zero 0.06 pounds of vitamin D, what happens if you put zero point 0.6 pounds, 10 times higher? Guess what? We got big problems. People might not like me to say this, but I have voiced this to regulatory agencies. I think anybody that's selling a mineral product, a deer mineral product, should have to provide a blend sheet, the actual blend sheet, to your state and have to have that product approved. So everybody's like, right? Whoa, I've never heard that before. What are you talking about? Again, how many people know that you maybe have killed deer on your property? Of course, it's always something different. EHD, CWD, some other issue, predators, you name it. But again, for how many products out there have been poorly formulated? Maybe there's been none, right? Maybe we're just bringing up stuff just as like preventative measures and things like that. But I've been doing this a number of years. I got another real life story that backs this up. Got called to a deer farm in Indiana, and the guy's like, "This deer is a really, really nice deer back at that day. Got the tremors and the shakes." And so I'm walking around and checking for how much perennial ryegrass is out in the pastures, and he was supposed to be feeding a diet that was formulated by me for a feed mill that was making it up and giving it to him. So again, we have to double check that the feed mill's doing things right. Um, and I started asking questions. And he's like, "Yep, this is what I'm feeding. This is how much I'm feeding, and that." Then I started thinking because I've been doing this a number of years. And again, people like you guys, whether it's in pens or in the wild, everybody wants bigger deer, right? So little's good, more's better, right? No, it's not. Not all the time, which is why we're shooting this video. So then I started asking, well, what else are you putting in with the feed? And he's like, because I also there was another booster pack product that I formulated for ever that he was also putting in the feed. But again, it was balanced with the level he's supposed to be doing. So it had no worries, no issues. The diet was still balanced. But then again, he was using another really common product and throwing that on there at top at the full rate. Little's good, more's better, even more yet. Could even grow bigger deer yet, right? That's why we had toxicities. So we had toxicities going on, causing those tremor shakes. And again, you have to just keep asking enough questions, and eventually you'll figure it out. And that's one thing I had this conversation 2 days ago with a client looking at four the samples. We actually sampled the products, the corn, the pellets, we know what the minerals going in there, or do we? Yeah, I mean, we're pretty confident in that because of who's making it. But again, we're still going to double check, right? And then we were doing like a final blend percentage, and something wasn't right. So we got to do a little back figuring. So again, when you're talking about deer mineral, right? Are you buying the package? Are you buying the tag? When you look at the tag, who created that tag? Don't be afraid to ask these questions. And again, most companies are not going to give you the blend sheet. Like I would venture to say, nobody's going to give you the blend sheet, but at least ask what their backgrounds are. And again, like I said, I'll be doing some more talking with some of the regulatory agencies. But again, this is a huge issue. I believe it's a um, with so many people in the wildlife industry that don't do consulting, that aren't actually the guy that actually sits in front of the screen and the program. They maybe might have had somebody that has background in nutrition that's doing it, but does that guarantee that they didn't make a mistake? So again, how many of you guys are actually resampled the deer mineral that you purchased? Isn't a cheap venture, but again, for some of you guys who use a lot of product, um, I'd be if you're just checking the mineral package there, the major minerals are probably looking at 30, $40 a sample. If you had the micros, we might have 50, $60 into it. But if again, you guys really want some confidence, might want to back check, might want to send those mineral samples to lab, make sure that what you're buying was actually in the bag. And again, we want to have as many groceries as we can, right? But what happens if we have 10 times the amount of vitamin D, 10 times the amount of selenium, 10 times the amount of iodine? Again, as I said before, abortions, absorptions, lameness. We have some death. We can be killing animals when you're trying to do things that are healthy, but when we have a lot of recklessness and inexperience and people that are just wanting to push product, that's my concern. So, anyway, food for thought, something to think about. Don't be afraid to reach out to people to get more confidence. Thank you much.